Checking out the new reverb listings. And this gorgeous Les Paul Deluxe catches my eye. From 73, listed as excellent condition, only 3,500? That's not too bad for early 70s. So I dig a little bit deeper, because everybody's definition of excellent condition can vary. But it looks like we got the nice aged knobs. The golden finish is actually looking miraculously clean for one of these. It's got the original style case. And alright, it's got some nicks and dings. That's always nice to see. That way you know it's not like a refinish or something. Oh, we've got our mini humbuckers, not replaced for P90s or anything like that. Factory stock ABR1, that's why the earlier ones are worth more, and they've got their mahogany necks. And then we've got this fretboard, we've got fret nibs, we've got the inlays, and then we've got the headstock, a Gibson mother of pearl logo, Deluxe truss rod cover, back's looking okay. It's definitely got a mahogany neck, no volute, Clusen vintage style tuners, and a serial number of 106015. So now answer in the comments, do you think this is a great deal, or is there something off? If you said something's off here, you're correct. Alright, so I personally have a fond spot in my heart for guitars that have been so disfigured that they get new necks thrown on them, and that is exactly what this is. If we go back to our upside down headstock and flip it the right way, you can actually tell this is the late 90s, early 2000s style of headstock, and this finish checking and slight lacquer lifting is actually a thing that you would find on guitars of that era. Going back to our headstock, a 73 would have a serial number similar to that, but it would not look like this at all. It would look more so like this, rather than a deep stamp. It's very light and then they put the grain fill in it. You'll also notice it has a Made in USA stamp. So that's not exactly what we have here. What about our tuners? These are modern day reissues, whereas a vintage one would look more so like this, but that could easily just be somebody replacing it. But the important thing to note here is this little smiley face. That's called a volute. That is not present on this guitar, and it would be on a 70s one. You'll also notice that this is a one-piece mahogany neck versus the 3 pieces. We still have the headstock wings, but right here you can tell the wood grain is definitely 90s, if you've seen enough of these. So that's why I wasn't surprised when I came down here to read when it was a professional neck replacement in 1998. Very early on in my YouTube guitar career, I actually came across a renecked Les Paul Custom from 1976, and it was one of my big top videos at that time, and I still love that guitar because it's got such an interesting story, whereas this one has a bit of a different tale that we'll talk about. But people are usually so scared of buying these things online because they don't get to feel it. So you can normally get a really good deal, and typically it's just not financially worth doing unless you really love the guitar because of that reason. But do not be scared of a proper renecked guitar. They can be a lot of fun. The important thing is to keep documentation, and check this out. New neck quote, $325. Install the neck, $400. To be fair, it does take a lot to rip out a neck and put a new one in. So a whopping total of $750 USD all the way back in 1998. But this was not Gibson that did it. It looks like the Guitar Clinic in Denver, Colorado. To put things into perspective, if I remember correctly, I think the Gibson receipt on that 76 was also done in the 2000s, and Gibson charged them about $2,500. So definitely cheaper to go with a non-Gibson company. But what's really surprising here is that looks exactly like a Gibson neck from this era. So I wonder if Gibson actually provided that neck to them? But it looks like Greg recently had purchased this off of Moncton Guitars, and he's deciding it's not for him. So if you want to make an offer, you can check it out on Reverb. I'll leave an affiliate link in the description. Certainly not a piece for everyone, but for people who want a story, they're a lot of fun. But now, speaking of a lot of fun, Reverend Guitar Man listed this interesting 2010 Gibson Les Paul R8. We've got the yellow, we've got a little bit of orange, then we've got the red. Kind of reminds me of the Stratoburst finish, or some other colors that Fender has done since. It's not my favorite, but it's unique. It's a little bit of a fade, very festive, summertimey. But for some reason in my head, I thought this was a Les Paul Custom. But no, as I told you earlier, it's a 1958 reissue. And you know what? That's what did it. It's got the 68 reissue style knobs, and the ABR1 bridge, black plastics. But as far as our headstock, it's just the regular stuff. Then the back, instead of just being an aniline dyed cherry, it's this really nice bright red sparkle. I thought that was quite refreshing as well. And then our serial number dates it to 2011. If you're curious how to read custom shop serial numbers, it can be kind of tricky. You're going to have CS starting, and then you're going to have a number of digits. If it's 4 digits, you're within the 90s. If it's 5 digits, you're within the 2000s. And then if you've got 6 digits, you're the 2010s plus. Unfortunately, they didn't keep adding numbers for 2020s, and it does get confusing. Outside of that, you have to look at like COA style, what case it has, and if you're missing all that, it gets even trickier. But this one, we've got 6, so we know it's the 2010s, and then the first digit tells you the year, so 2011. But if we take a peek inside the control cavity, we can see our nice R8 stamp, meaning it is a 1958 reissue Les Paul. If I remember correctly, those things are like $5,500 brand new yet today. So this one, a little over a decade old with a cool custom color, I didn't think that was too bad of a price. I'd suggest making him an offer. Then at the same time of this guitar hunt, another custom color R8. I'm surprised. Usually it's the older R7s that got all the fancy paintwork, but this one appears to be a Wildwood spec guitar. So that means Wildwood initially was the seller of this one. Just a nice metallic red color. It's not necessarily sparkle. It's just like a gold top, but red. So that is kind of fascinating for an R8, because usually those are just plain top bursts. Or I suppose really early 1958s will still be the gold top. So it's kind of like one of those, but reimagined as red. So I guess if you're a Jared James Nichols fan, you might enjoy this. But then you get the gorgeous honey back. I like that a lot. And R8s have big, chunky baseball bat necks. But now you might be curious, this one doesn't say CS. How do I read this one, Trogly? So you'll find these in 2 different variations. You'll have the leading number plus 4 digits or the leading number plus 5. So this will tell you the year they're reissuing, this will tell you the year of the guitar. So what happens is after they make the 999th one, they have to add this additional digit because this is your production number, your last ones. So this is the 1507th reissue made in the year that you kind of have to guess. It could be 2008, it'd be 2018. Which is my guess on this one. Again, you have to look at custom shop style. It's no longer Rick Gembar, so that definitely tells me a 2018 produced. And then, if you're lucky enough to have this, then yeah, it didn't ship until 2/27/19, so that definitely lines up with it being a 2018 serial number. But if you're lost, don't worry. I offer private help sessions on my website if you want me to take a look at a guitar for you, either just to help date it or tell you what it's worth. But I do charge a fee for my time. But how much are they asking on this one? $4,699. Again, not too bad of a price if you're in the market for one of those and you'll like the custom color attribute of it. Next up, an interesting 2014 Gibson Explorer. So I like Explorers, so whenever a unique one shows up, I've got to take a look. So we've got an animal skull on here that's all shiny. Apparently it's the Shiner Bock logo, but it's a 2014 made guitar because it has the Doovie 120th anniversary inlay on it. Almost every guitar from that year in Gibson production had that. And this was from the period in time when Gibson had the year serialization, then the rest is a production number, instead of the year year batch production number. We're just learning all about serial numbers today. But apparently they made like 10 of these. Okay, there's the logo. Nice and small. That's a good way to do it. And then the back, it's just black. It's not necessarily all that special, but worth knowing about if that is your preferred brewery. They're asking $2,600. But next is a gorgeous ES-175. They've got it listed just under $5,000. You tell me if it's worth it. I'm constantly looking at reverb all day, every day, and this thing just grabbed my attention when I don't normally pay attention to this style of guitar. I think it's just because the natural finish is so ridiculously clean, and then this unique pickguard. Now, the pickguard is not original. It would not have shipped with that, but hey, that's okay. You can easily replace it with something a little bit more familiar if that's what you want to do. But reading their description and looking at everything, they're saying it's like nearly immaculate. So these are one of those listings where I think about it and then I come back 20 minutes later and it's just gone. Clean, nice collector stuff, even in a tougher market, always has a buyer waiting for it, as long as it's priced appropriately. And this is phenomenal one. Okay, maybe we got a little bit of a crackdown here, but it's still looking pretty nice. And looking at reverb, all the other ones are asking a little bit more, but you have to remember that is a D, so that's a full body shaped one, whereas they were also making a T, which makes it a thin line body design. I'd like to document one of those because it's just freaky. Then there's a really cool CC model, so that stands for Charlie Christian, which is in reference to our pickup. I'd say the closest thing on the market is $5,600. Granted, it doesn't have the crack at the bottom. For some reason, it just doesn't look as majestic. That's why you gotta take photos outside in a natural lighting. But I think they were trying to show off the finish checking that this one has. Then Dave's Guitar Shop listed not one, but two 54 reissues. And that's like the best price I've seen one of these advertised at in a long time. Now granted, he says it's from 1998, and it appears to be pretty well worn, but it looks the part. You just don't see many 54 reissues anymore. However, Gibson has started to make them again, so maybe one day that will change. It's been a long time since we've had one of these in on the show. But this one has had replaced tuners, and then somebody decided to go back to the original style, and then you're left with the dreaded ring because somebody put the modernized tuners on it. But it's not every day a player gets an opportunity to buy one of those. But for $750 more, you can get one that's a little bit cleaner. This had to have been the same guy, like one was his main guitar and then the other one was a backup. It's just nice to see one of these well worn. Usually the reissues are kept relatively clean because people just like to keep them in the case because they enjoy the history and playing them and the Alnico 5 staple P90 in the neck. Yeah, this one doesn't seem anywhere near as used. But alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.